evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in for our first of 3 virtual signings this weekend, and we are hitting you with the Thursday Night Happy Hour. This is someone that we've been fortunate to have on a bunch of times in the past. Always great to have him on for a virtual signing, whether it's with his legendary partner, whether he's solo. The man, he's always with partners because, as you'll see, we've got a few of these. He's a man of multiple names. Crusher Khrushchev, Repo Man, of course, Demolition Smash, Blacktop Bully. It goes on and on. But our friend Barry Darsow is with us today for a virtual signing. Barry, thank you so much for spending some time.
Nick, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. You know, I love being on your show. You get the greatest fans in the world. So I'm one of 3, like you were saying. I'm feeling pretty good about being the first one up here, too.
You know, and we're going to have a good time over the next couple hours. We got pre-orders in. As the room begins to fill, I'm going to monitor the chat back here. Barry, if you can maybe show the photo options to everyone in Cuban Land. This is our Smash #1. What do you think of when you see that photo?
Man, that's some old days back then. You know, it's hard for me to even fathom. This is like 30-some years ago.
Wow.
It's just how time flies. And, you know, I'm excited to be alive, and I hope I live to be 1,000,000 years old. Gosh dang it.
Well,
I love life.
With the way you look, Barry, like I said, you're gonna live to at least 500,000 if you don't get to 1,000,000. So that is our Smash #1. This is our Smash #2. Another great photo. When you see that one, what do you think?
You know, I remember doing this in a studio, and I believe, gosh, you know, I can't remember exactly where it was at, but it was a special shoot that we did. They wanted this special picture here, so it was real high resolution. And this is kind of the old school one. This is one of the first pictures ever that the WWF took of us.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's our #3 photo. Now, once again, this is our Smash #4. Now, we're going to get to all Barry's other characters. This is our Smash #4.
And this one's special because Crush is in there. Both Bill and I loved Crush. He was a good guy, real good guy. He died too young.
Now, if you're looking for something a little different, we've got Crusher Khrushchev. This is our Crusher Khrushchev option.
Yeah, that was when I was partners with Ivan and Nikita Koloff. Unbelievable times. And that's that famous wall. A lot of guys have had their pictures there. That was in Richmond, Virginia. That's where those pictures were taken.
Eddie Cheslock?
Yes, yeah. Eddie Cheslock, yeah. And I was probably about 320 pounds in shape at that time.
Yeah, you could go.
I was a young buck there, too.
Yeah, a hoss, as they say.
I think I was 23 years old, maybe, then.
You do look baby-faced when you're posed. You can't tell when you're clubbing on someone.
Yeah.
When you're posed,
And that was before I blew my knee out, too. So I was...
That's right. Was that Stan Houston match?
Yes, on TV. Yeah.
So that's our Crusher Khrushchev #1. Now, everyone's favorite kleptomaniac, Repo Man. That's our Repo Man #1.
You know, and this one was more fun doing the vignettes. And I can remember when we were going to do the first one, we were out, I can't remember exactly where it was, but they said, we want you to break into this car. And I said, do you want me to kick the window in? And they said, well, you can't kick the window in, can you? And I said, oh, yeah, I can. And I was always kind of a one-take person, and they didn't believe that I could kick the window in. So when they said, you know, 3, 2, 1, go, boom, I went up and I talked a little bit, and I kicked the window in and opened up the door and then took it and stole the car.
One take Barry.
One take Barry, yeah. One take Repo.
One take Repo, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our Repo #1 and our Repo #2.
And that's the studio shot that...
The promo photo.
Yeah, the promo
Absolutely,
photo.
that everyone loves. Now, Mr. Hole-in-One.
Oh. I kind of do a little bit of that right now on the weekends in the summertime, play a little golf.
Do you?
Yeah. I've never had a hole-in-one, but I've been this close to getting hole-in-one quite a few times.
So soon enough, hopefully.
I hope one day. Now I'm getting a little older, though. I don't hit it as far, and I'm, you know, kind of hold back and just hit it down the middle a couple hundred yards at a time.
Just a couple hundred yards.
You know, the old timers golf now.
And now, last but not least, we've also got the loudest character of them all, the Blacktop Bully #1. That's our Blacktop Bully option.
Oh, I had some fun times as the Blacktop Bully. Good times. And then I got fired for it, too. So, so what do you say?
I know there's always questions about that. I know recently you have to talk about Eric Bischoff, too. You wound up talking to him about it.
Yeah, it was on him and Conrad's show, yeah.
Now, we're going to show figures, other stuff shortly, but we've got a few of these left. We've got a lot of pre-orders for this. Sickles, studs, and stolen cars. Barry, I'll have you hold it up for everyone.
Yeah.
We only got a few left. Can you talk about the book, The Many Faces of Barry Darsow, and then maybe a little about what went into that?
Yeah, I really didn't want to do a book, and I know, you talked about let's get together and doing one.
5 years ago
and just couldn't put it together, and finally, I was working with, Dante, who's out in Scotland.
Okay.
And it just ended up happening where we put it together. And it took about a year to get everything together because it's so long going back and forth with conversations and writing and everything. And it ended up being a fun book. But the hardest part about a book is you tell a story and you can't tell the whole story. Because, right now it's 300 and some pages. I could have 10,000 pages.
You could have volumes in the books.
And it's not, there's so many stories, but they got some good ones in there. And, I was trying to write it so when you read the book, you could, put yourself into my situation. So you were Crusher Khrushchev or you were Smash or somebody in those stories. When you're reading it, you're going to laugh. And, that's kind of how it was. I just wanted an easy reading, fun one. I didn't want to knock anybody in the business or anybody. I love everybody.
Those are the most fun books when you're just being yourself and just telling about the times you're not bashing anybody.
Yeah, and it started off. My mom helped me out so much in the wrestling business. Paying for my ways to Hawaii and just different things because you're starving to death when you started. So I talk a lot about my mom, my brother, my sister, the family, and then I get into, Hawk and Animal and Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig and John Nord and Wayne Bloom. I start talking about all my friends from Robbinsdale and, Minnesota when we all got in the business and some good stories.
Now, when you were going through Memory Lane, and once again, these are available and get caught up on the comments shortly, tell us the process about picking your brain. There probably, had to be questions and certain things you haven't thought about in years.
You mean for the book?
For the book, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and that's kind of how it worked. Everybody was just asking me questions, and then I was writing things down and talking about it, and I had a great guy helping me with it, who was asking me these questions, and it's a hard process. It's hard to explain, but you try to, get some good stories that people are going to laugh and have a good time reading, and that's kind of how the whole process went. But it took almost a year to do it because, the busy schedule, you're on the road all the time, and plus have to be with the family and the grandkids and everybody too. So every time I'd stop and say, hey, I got to make a phone call here, and I'd be on the phone for 2 or 3 hours with the guy helping me who was writing it with me. It, took up a lot of time.
Well, the finished product is here. Look at that. Dustin, we got you covered. You got sickles, studs, and stolen cars.
Nick, it was fun though. I never knew what the process was going to be, and it just it did bring up a lot of memories. When I started talking about Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude and Nord and Wayne Bloom and Brad Ringens, and this was 35, 40 years ago, so it's hard to remember back that far.
Sure.
And I have a hard time anyways because I've been hit on the head so many times and everything, but. I really had to think about some of these stories,
Well, they were all in there, right? And then it's just a matter of what's squeezed out, right? And then, like you said, what you guys were able to put in there, because if you've got 1,000 stories, I'm sure you couldn't put all 1,000 in there because it would be multiple volumes,
Right. I got 10,000 stories.
That's what. I was undercut.
And so the 8-10 stories that are in there they're dropping the bucket. And, there's a lot of stories I couldn't tell that I wanted to put in there, but...
That'd be for the after hours book, the late night book.
Yeah.
Any stories pop to mind when you see the big cat and some of the other?
Oh, the big cat, Ernie Ladd. I got a story in the book about Ernie Ladd. We were racing down the highway, probably about 100 miles an hour to go to New Orleans, and we got pulled over that night. And I don't want to tell what's in the book, but
You're gonna got so that's a great tease. Ernie Ladd, 100 miles per hour.
It was a good story.
What's up, Tom? Hope you're well. He wants to know. Tom wants to know. Said, "Hey Cap, hey Barry. I'd love to hear any of Barry's stories from being in the UK, either for matches or conventions."
Oh, the UK. I had such good times there. Wembley Stadium, wrestling my old partner, Crush. I mean, when you walk through that curtain and walk down that aisle, it was about 200 yards to get to the ring. By the time you got to the ring, you were ready to have the match over with. You were so tired. But, I mean, the people were just nuts. A lot of fun. And you guys got some really good beer to drink, too. I have to say that.
Shout out to your beer, Tom. Tom's actually in Canada now, where they also have some good beer.
They got some good beer.
But we got, so Joe, this one's going to be for Joe. Joe wants a Demolition Smash right here, and then Rest in Peace Crush right there.
There you go.
Oh, you're gonna love this, Joe.
I guess he's C.
Yeah.
You should saying Crusher Khrushchev.
We got it covered.
Rest in peace, Crush.
Demolition Smash, Rest in Peace Crush.
I almost had Crusher Khrushchev on there.
Yeah, but you got the CK Crush. Yeah, it worked out. What was your idea? What was your memories of Crush coming in and making the team a trio like the Freebirds? What was early memories when you were hearing about it?
We met Brian at a TV before that, and we didn't know that. It was a couple of TVs before. We didn't know that he was going to be Crush at the time. So when we met him and everything, I knew some friends that knew him and everything. He was just the nicest guy. And then when Bill got sick, he ended up being Crush. And you couldn't ask for a nicer guy. And he wanted to do anything he could to make the team. And he did a really good job. And he came in a tough situation too. It's hard to... It was hard to replace Axe, and he never really replaced him. He just was an extra added person. But he passed away way too young.
He did, and he had a very good career outside Demolition as well. And like you said, too young. But it's who knows where he would have gone. Had he lived a little longer. I know he could have become a boxer, right? Yeah. At some point, that was one of the things.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the funniest guys you've ever seen, too. I mean, he'd rib people and, he was just fun. A lot of fun.
Like the photo says, Rest in Peace Crush. JD's question, Starrcade 85. Of course, one of the biggest shows of all time. Ivan and Nikita against Ricky and Robert. They were the main event in one of the towns. Magnum and Tully were actually underneath. So his question is, was there any heat, or did you hear anything? Because everyone talks about both of the matches, but, of course, Magnum Tully was also positioned very high on the card. Was there any heat over who would go on last, or any discussion over who would go on last?
Well, was that the one where Ivan and Nikita wrestled the Rock and Roll, and I wrestled?
In the cage, yeah.
And I wrestled
You wrestled Sam Houston, yep, and then you were back, and you guys got over on the Rock and Roll in the cage that night. There was... What was great about that territory was all the guys worked together. It didn't matter who was on when or what or how. If you were a main event one day, you might get beat, and then all of a sudden you're down in the third or fourth match or whatever. And then you worked your way back up to a main event match. So it's kind of how everybody worked, and it was great because everybody worked with everybody there. It didn't matter. It was like a great football team. It didn't matter who you were or what you were. Everybody had their piece of the puzzle that made it. And we popped that territory big time. And it wasn't because of
Dusty or Ric Flair or whatever, it was because of the group.
The crew, yeah, you're
the
right.
Group of guys.
100%. I mean, yeah, you like, a Sam Houston might be in the opening match in one show, and then the 6-man in the main event the next. You know, people can go from top to bottom. I mean, you know, everyone we named, you know, Buddy Landel's there, Terry Taylor, you know, we love Jimmy Valiant. Jimmy Valiant, Boogie Woogie Man.
You know, I used to laugh at some of the guys. Oh, yeah, look at I drew that house today, you know. What do you mean you drew that house? No, everybody. Because if it was just your match, there wouldn't be all those people there.
No.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were Hulk Hogan. You're not going to fill that building like that just with you, you know. It's the whole group of guys.
We had a question earlier. As a Minnesota guy, you never worked Vern Gagne's territory. Was there a time where you were close? You know, because obviously you were busy in other places. But at any point were you close to where maybe I'll go back home for a period of time?
Well, yeah, it just didn't work out. But I actually did work for Vern on a few different shows.
When Crockett and Vern were promoting.
Right, but never worked for Vern. And I always wanted to because I would have been home in Minneapolis, you know. But it just never worked out. I was always in the other territories, and I was very happy. I didn't want to leave there and go to Vern. And, you know, Vern probably didn't want me there either, you know, because I was a hometown guy, and I don't think he really liked hometown guys working for him.
He didn't, but you were, I guess people would have known, local people would have known, but as Crusher Khrushchev, do you think, probably not the majority of the audience.
Well, it didn't matter because I was an American that liked Russians.
Yeah.
So I didn't make
You're a sympathizer, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which is a great attention to detail. Was that your idea? Was that Watt's idea?
That was Watt's idea.
Which is a great idea, because that's even more heat now. Because now you're not just Russian. Now you're one of the, you know, the good old boys of America, and you're aligning with the evil Russian. There's an extra level of evil there.
Right,
you know?
right.
We'll get caught up in the comments right now. Any plans to do an audiobook of the new book, Barry?
You know, I was just asked that by a friend of mine, and he kind of yelled at me a little bit and said I had to do an audiobook.
Whoa, really?
But I don't really know what I have to do that. So, you know, and I haven't been home much to really talk to my guys here to figure that out. But, you know, is it worth doing that?
I think there are a lot of people, especially, you know, people that travel in their car a lot, right? Now, I do like to read, but I can go through podcasts quicker than books because I'm in the car so much.
Right.
So I think there's an additional segment of people, you know, that could reach. I know Bret Hart just released his book in audiobook very recently, so there's no timetable. It's not something you have to have. You could do it in a year, and maybe some of the people that, you know, enjoy the book in writing will then purchase the audiobook version, because now they can hear it.
So then when you do an audiobook, are you adding some extra things in?
No, you're just reading the book word for word.
Right.
I mean, you could add bonuses if you want, expanded edition.
Yeah, like some of the stories, you know.
That's what I mean.
That's when
stories.
When you're reading that, you know, you want to tell that little extra stuff that you didn't have in the book.
And maybe that's you add, you know, extra stories, just audiobook only. Now, we've got a WrestleMania 5 program that we're going to get done right here. If we could, in the blue, give me like right there, Barry.
Right on the yellow though?
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, one of your many appearances at WrestleMania is one of the featured matches, you and Bill, of course, against the Powers of Pain and Fuji after the big turn.
Right.
What are your memories of that happening? You guys went from the dark side to be cheered by millions, but what are your memories of the time of the
You know, it was kind of funny because we never knew anything about that this was going to happen or anything. And then, you know, I think it was probably Pat Patterson came in and he was going to, you know, give us our finishes or whatever. And he says, yeah, you and Fuji's going to turn on you guys, and he's going to go with the Powers of Pain. And it was an incredible surprise to us because we never knew that until that night was going to happen. So it worked out great because Warlord and Barbarian are such good friends of ours too, and we just had fun. And you know, the hardest part was losing Fuji because we traveled with Fuji everywhere, every day, all the time, and then all of a sudden we're only seeing him at the buildings. We're not traveling with him anymore. So that was kind of the tough part of it.
Now, did he hit you or Axe with the cane on that turn? Because he drilled someone. I remember that. I know he got body slammed.
I think he drilled Bill.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. That's one of the takeaways.
Yeah, you're asking me, and I can't remember all that stuff.
Let us know in the comments. I remember Fuji blasting. I think it was Axe. Yeah, I think it was Bill.
But the hardest part, we were giving Fuji the finish, and I lifted up some pretty heavy guys. Well, Fuji didn't really help at all going up. It seemed like he weighed about 500 pounds. I put him on my knees, and he was straight out like this. He never bent his knees or helped or anything. And he was laughing when he was doing it. The old he. That was his rib to me. Hoping I wasn't gonna be able to pick him up. I guess.
You showed him. Now, over the last 5 or 6 months, we lost someone that was a huge part of WWF's history, huge part of a lot of people's childhood. The one and only Hulk Hogan. You were together with Hulk. For most of that run, the Hulk was there. You were there too, teaming with him. Occasionally against him. But you have like a memory or something you're able to say about your time with Hulk.
That was a real shock. And I didn't hear about it. And Bill called me up and he goes, "You'll never guess." And I said, "What?" And when he calls and says that it's one of our friends that have died,
knew, but you
something was up. He goes, "Yeah, the Hulkster died." I go, "Holy cow!" Hulk was really, to me, he was a good guy. I mean, but I love everybody, But he always, respected Bill and I, and one story, we were in a town, we had a day off or something, and he came up to me and he says, "Hey, Barry," he says, "I know you're in Florida, you got a couple of days off. Hey, why don't you come on my boat with me?"
Oh.
And I said, he says, I said, "I got something going on, but, I'm going to cancel it. I do want to go out there with you." And he says, "Call up Rick Rude, and why don't you and Rick come on the boat with me?" So we went out to his house, and we had some beer. We lived it up. It was just us three on the boat, going down Clearwater Beach in the ocean, hitting the big waves. And this was just a monster cigarette boat that he had. I mean, it had Hulkster written on the side, and it was funny because he always would say, "Yeah, I don't want everybody to recognize me, And you just laugh. You got Hulkster on the side of the boat, this big, huge guy with blonde hair. And, but...
And his name, his size, you're kind of hard not to recognize.
But there's quite a few stories like that. He was just... it wasn't like I was, best friends with him, like, with Rick or, Bill or, Wayne Bloom or these guys, but he was a friend, And... it was a shame. It was a shame.
Yeah, no,
he came Blacktop bully.
Yeah. That's a message in and of itself. The one and only Blacktop bully. Check that out. Kenny, that's for you. What are your memories of the bully character? Very memorable, even though not a ton of time as the character. What's your memories of the Blacktop?
I had the greatest time. I mean, when we were creating it, it ended up being where I was yelling at Steamboat, and I was yelling at Dustin Rhodes, and I knew I was going to have an angle with these guys somewhere.
Yeah, you were in the crowd for a few weeks, right?
Yeah, and I got to be the obnoxious fan, and then they threw me in jail, and I was in the jail in downtown Atlanta, and it was a real jail, and they locked me in that sucker, and it's a scary feeling being in that jail, and Mr. Parker, Colonel Parker comes in and bails me out. And Ming, so I got to be with Haku and Colonel Parker and Bunkhouse Buck, and I mean, I had a great time. I wish that character would have lasted for the rest of my career, because I really did enjoy that. It
really could have too. It was cut so short, for reasons that I know you've talked about. I'm sure reasons in the book you'll probably talk about. But a memorable character. Christian, you're going to have one coming up the same way, but let's talk about that Repo Man character. The way you just said you would have liked to have been the Blacktop bully, a lot of people, one of their favorites from that era is the Repo Man. It was I didn't necessarily know it was Smash until I got a little older. Then I noticed the tattoo.
Right.
But two completely different characters. You did such a good job of becoming who this Repo Man character was. Can you talk about that concept, and then making it work? Because you did.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And, it was real hard because when I was Smash, it was, just to beat up everybody, big, knocking the crap out of everybody and being a tag team. And when we created the Repo Man, I needed to change my whole look. So I started, really running a lot, and I started doing high reps in the gym, and I was dieting, and I went from, 325 down to, probably 265, 260.
Really? Yeah.
Completely changed. And, I love food, and I'm like dieting all the time. I'll lose 20, 30 pounds, gain 10 back, 15. I mean, I've always had problems losing weight and keeping it off, but I did pretty good with the Repo Man, and I was working the Stairmaster a lot, and that's kind of how I lost it. But that was a major part of the gimmick, and Vince, I think at first Vince didn't think I'd be able to do it because he said, how are you going to do this so people don't know you? And I said, well, I'm just going to lose weight and I'll be a different person. So when I got down there, I think he was pretty happy that I did that. And, I ended up working with all the top guys. So I had a great run as the Repo Man.
Yeah, you did. The feud was Macho Man. Everyone.
Macho Man,
yeah.
Duggan, Kurt Henning, British Bulldog, it was a real good time.
It has to be good in a way too now, because for 5 years you were a tag team, and then absolutely nothing wrong with that because that tag team was so memorable. But now it's like you get to show a little different side.
Well, and there was no pressure on me. I went out there and I could just do whatever I wanted to do. And at that time, all the guys knew who I was. They knew I wasn't going to hurt anybody. They knew that I was going to put them over because that's what my job was. You work an angle with somebody, you beat them, and you cheat, and then at the end, they win. That was, and Vince knew I would do business. I wouldn't hold them up or anything. And, so it was a win-win all the way around, and just being up there with the guys. I mean, how do you not like that?
And you can hear all about Repo Man in Sickles, Studs, and Stolen Cars. Only a few copies left. Who came up with the name, the Blacktop Bully? Because it's a memorable name. Because no one was going with names by that in WCW at the time.
So that was Arn Anderson that came up with that.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in Bobby Eaton's garage drinking a few beers, and we were probably on about our 15th or 16th beer. And
okay.
Arn looks at me and he goes, "You're the Blacktop Bully." And I went, "I love it." That was it. I called up Ric Flair, and he was one of the bosses there. And I said, "I'm the Blacktop Bully." He goes, "That's the name. We're going with it." That's how the Blacktop Bully got started.
Shout out to Arn Anderson. What's up, Justin? Justin says stealing the title with Macho is a fine childhood memory of his.
When I stole his hat?
Stole the hat, yeah.
Stole the hat. Yeah, that was actually, he didn't know I was going to do that. And at the time, nobody could touch his hat. That was a big no-no. And Vince came up to me before that was going to happen. And I said, "So Vince, what do you want me to do?" He goes, "Steal his hat." And I said, "Vince, are you sure you want me to steal it?" He goes, "Steal his hat? You're going to get one hell of a reaction, and you better run like hell." And so I stole the hat, and boy, he was pissed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that before, but it made so much sense,
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Now, you brought up someone that you're a great friend with that we've had on this feed. I think we may have had him on 5 times. Just a great guy, one of the most genuine, funny people around. John Nord.
Oh.
There's only one John Nord. I know he's having some health issues again right now. But what's a funny? I'm sure there's a Nord story or two in the
there's
book.
a couple of Nord stories.
What's one you can share with us about the one and only John Nord?
Well, before we got in the business, I'll tell you one before we got in the business. We were going to go visit another friend of ours, brother, in it was at college up in Wisconsin. And we were in John Nord's van, and his dad was selling cars at the time. So John took the van, and we had about 5 or 6 of us in the van. And the whole time John says, do not get this van dirty. This is my dad's at the car lot. I got to bring it back. Not a scratch on it and everything. So we end up, we're going down the freeway, and there was a dead deer on the side of the road. So we picked up the deer and we brought it to our friend's brother's place, and we put it in his bed, kind of like the Godfather deal. But when we were doing it, one of the guys opened the door before the van stopped, and it hit the telephone pole. Put a huge dent in the door, and you couldn't close the door hardly.
Oh, my God.
John went crazy. He's, I can't go home. I don't know what we're going to do, And I looked at John, and I said, John, I think we need to go on a road trip, another one. So it ended up being where we got the other guys a ride home. John and I went down to Florida for 3 weeks.
Oh, my God.
We had no money. We had nothing. I had a Sears charge card. I went in and bought about $600 worth of clothing, and then I brought it to another Sears and got the cash. So that's how we got to Florida. And when John got home, he parked it in the garage, and he parked it so the door was real close to the wall of the garage. And his dad got in there and went to work that day, and he looked at the car and he goes, somebody hit my car. And he didn't know it was John.
Oh, that's great.
And then they figured it out. It was John and me.
They did find out?
They found out after. Oh, gosh, did John get it?
I thought you guys got away with it.
Oh, God, that was funny. But that was, there's a million stories like that.
Anthony wants to know, can you ask Barry if it's true that he wanted the Repo Man to turn babyface?
That is true. That was one of the reasons why I left the WWF, because Vince wasn't going to change me as a babyface. And that was one of the things we talked about when I became the Repo Man, that I eventually wanted to be a babyface and just do Make-A-Wish stuff and, have a good time. And I think it could have been a pretty neat gimmick. I could have maybe been kind of like Robin Hood, where now I'm stealing from the bad guys.
Yeah.
And giving it to the...
This is pre-Doink, too, where, you could have went after all of the bad guys.
Yeah, that's kind of what my thought was. But it didn't work out, and then that's when I put my notice in. And by that time, I was pretty wore out, too. I needed a break.
Another program will do the blue paint pen. Everyone remembers this pretty fondly, too. You teaming up with the king of the WWF at the time, Jum Duggan. Of course, he had the face paint on in that match. What are your memories after you get that signed of teaming up with Jum Duggan? Or just memories of Jum Duggan?
Well, it was funny because, I've known Jim forever. And when we were teaming up with Jim, we knew it was going to be a fun match, because whenever you're in a match with him, you have a good time. But we didn't know he was going to paint his face. So he had somebody paint it for him, and I don't know if the office told him or what, but he came out, and I looked at it and I thought, Jim, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And he had that mask that he put on.
Yeah.
So we all took it off. It was right there. Jim's a great guy.
Now,
I suppose everybody is probably sick of me saying, oh, he's a great guy, or but they all are. They're all great, great guys.
Everyone we talk, a lot of people I've met and been around and worked with, and I can tell you that of everyone you mentioned, all great guys.
All great guys.
Nord, Hogan, Duggan, all of them. George wants to know, how did he not realize the van was missing for 3 weeks?
Well, John called home and told his dad that we were going on a trip and all that stuff. So he knew it was missing and it was okay, but he didn't know that it had a huge dent in the door.
JD said, remember when Macho and Blacktop, I believe, of course, the King of the Road match with Dustin Rhodes. You've talked about it before, but what are your memories of that match? It was such a unique match. What are your memories of hearing that it was going to happen in the back of a flatbed? Was that something that was told weeks out? Did you find out a few days before?
It was probably a couple weeks before it happened. Mike Graham came up to me and he says, I got a special match for you. And And I thought, wow, there's going to be a cage, there's going to be this or that, and he goes, we're going to create a match for you and Dustin in the back of a truck. And he says, and you're going to win because we're going to keep doing these truck matches. This is going to be good.
Okay.
And then I told Dustin, and we just kind of laughed, and we knew it was going to be hard because, you're riding down the road at 65 miles an hour and you just tap on the brakes a little bit and you flew. I mean, it was quite the experience. Then you got helicopters and you got pickup trucks with cameras and, police cars surrounding you going down the highway. I mean, it was a pretty high production deal.
Oh, absolutely.
Very expensive. And that's probably why we got fired, probably because of the expense.
How much it cost? Oh, it was taped that day, right? Earlier that day?
Yeah.
This one is going to be Repo Man. Ha 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 ha.
Aha. Should I send it right here? Or?
Yeah, I think that would look great. You had such a unique laugh as the Repo Man. Where did that come from in you?
I don't know, because I couldn't even think about doing it anymore. Somebody asked me
on the interview that
yeah.
you were just in the character, just like an actor.
You gotta you gotta be in that character, and I just can't. I hurt so bad. My knees, my back. It's like I can't even yell anymore. I mean, it'd be hard to be Smash again. Yeah, being the Repo Man was a lot of work, and a lot of thought process to it too, to keep the gimmick going.
Of your characters, was that the hardest?
That was the hardest one, yeah.
Well, last time we had the Cuban Connection photos, Crusher Khrushchev, the Saint, and Jim Neidhart. What are your memories of that time in Florida? You guys were feuding with the Freebirds at the top of the card. I believe you were there too when Eddie Graham
I was there.
himself, right? Can you kind of talk about that time period, Barry?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I just left Mid-South, and I got down there, and I worked a good deal with Eddie Graham down there, and I really liked Eddie. And he asked me kind of what I wanted to do, and I said I want to team up with Jim Neidhart, and we talked about, how are we going to do this? And I said, well, I'm Crusher Khrushchev, so he could be the Russian sympathizer with me, kind of a deal. And so he partnered up with me, and then the Saint became our manager because we just needed that little extra help to give us the heat. Because it really didn't make much rhyme or reason for Jim and I to get together in Florida and be there. It wasn't like we were a tag team, and we became a tag team when the Saint was our manager. And what was so cool about it is here's two big, strong guys. Mm-hmm. The guys we would wrestle, they would out wrestle us and get ready to beat us, and then the Saint would just put this white glove on. And then he'd knock the guys out, and we'd cover them, and we'd win. The people believed everything. We had so much heat down there. It was unbelievable. And we just had a really, really good time. That
dastardly Saint.
The Saint was brutal.
Now, because some people think of you guys being managed by Fuji, they forget that Fuji was not your original manager. Jimmy V. Right?
Jimmy V.
Can you talk about Jimmy V?
Johnny V.
Johnny V, excuse me, you're right. Luscious Johnny V as your original manager. And can you maybe say why you think it may not have worked and Fuji was a better fit?
Johnny Valiant was a great guy. He was fun, nice guy. We got along with him really good. But his managerial skills, the way he was working it, just wasn't, vicious like how we wanted to work. So that's why, and Johnny knew it too. That wasn't his character. Johnny was more for Johnny. And when Vince came up with Fuji and we came up with Fuji with Vince, it just seemed like Fuji was more sinister and more brutal of a heel when he wrestled. So he just kind of fit the bill a lot better than Johnny did. So there was no hard feelings there or anything. It just was one of those things that didn't work out.
Dave Sierra said nuclear heat is what you guys had.
We did. That was it. Nuclear heat.
Now we got to get, I believe, only 2 books left. Only 2 books left. This one's going to be To Tom. To Tom. Yep.
To Tom.
To Tom.
Thank you for reading this book. You are the man.
There it is. Now, you talk about nuclear heat. I'm going to think I may know the answer, but the hottest crowds that you were in front of, is it Watts? Is it Jim Crockett? Florida? You know, because WWF crowds were hot, but there's a different kind of heat in some of those Crockett towns, Watts towns. Right?
I think Watts's towns were the most vicious heat, where they wanted to really kill you. But I can't say that, because in Crockett's territory too, you know, it just all depended upon, you know, what you did on TV and what the finish was going to be in the towns. Because, you know, and in Florida too, there were some bad times we had there where we had to fight our way out of there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say every territory just all depended upon the finishes that you're doing with the baby faces and how good the matches were. Because you had to make those people believe that you were hurting your opponents and, you know, cheating is what it was, you know.
Yeah.
And we did that. And with David down there, that definitely, it was a little scary. You know, we had a couple times, you know, like in the Bahamas, you know, they throw rocks at you. They'd sell rocks at the door. You know, kids would.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, and people would buy those rocks up.
Was Tyree Pride there? Tyree Pride might have been there. He was always Bahamas champion in Florida.
I can't remember who it was.
Dave will know about Tyree Pride.
Or I'll kick your stinking teeth in.
Where did that line come from? Because that, of everything Demolition said, the I'll kick your stinking teeth in, you know, is very memorable.
I used to work at Grandma B's with the Road Warriors and Rick Rude, and one night I threw a guy across the table and knocked his teeth out, and he was screaming at me, and I said, I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's kind of how it all started right there.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
SummerSlam 90. We're going to get this one done for Mike. Of course, the dream match that everyone had been waiting for years. You know, it gets teased here. You go against the Hart Foundation, of course. But
Yeah,
LOD
I love
are in
working with
camp.
those guys.
And maybe we can talk about the Harts first, because you guys had a couple of different runs with them.
Oh, we had some great times with those guys.
A black Sharpie right here, if you could. Check that out.
Yeah,
Mike.
you know, Brett and Jim were just great guys, good friends of mine, and we tore the house down with those guys. There wasn't one selfish person in the ring. You know, we would do anything they wanted to do. They would do anything we wanted to do. I mean, it worked out perfect. And
They trusted each other.
oh, unbelievable. And you know, Brett, working wise, Brett could do anything, you know, and Bill and I were kind of limited because we're big guys, just like Jim was limited. But we needed a guy like Brett to be able to push us through moves for him, you know, and it just was really good. And it was different than the Road Warriors, because the Road Warriors, they couldn't work that kind of a style, so it was more beating up and punching and throwing finishes at each other, and that really wasn't how we worked. So we kind of clashed with the Road Warriors. We had good matches with them, but they weren't great matches. And you know, with like the Hart Foundation or the Bulldogs or, you know, Shawn Michaels and Mario Jannetty or whatever. I mean, we had great matches, and you know, we really took pride in that. So it was tough with the Road Warriors, and you know, the Road Warriors, we were best friends. We got in the business together. It's just, you know, you can't work with everybody.
Check that out, Kenny. He wants to know memories of Jesse the Body Ventura.
Jesse the Body Ventura. I always liked Jesse. He was always good to me. Great announcer. He actually lived he lived in Champlain Park, and he asked me one time, he said, Barry, he says, you know, I'm going to move. Do you know where there's any good houses around? I said, there's a perfect one for you in Maple Grove. So he ended up buying this house in Maple Grove. It was just a beautiful place. I don't know how many acres he had out there. But when he became governor, then they ended up putting security out there and everything, and played in a few golf tournaments with Jesse, and seen him at the gym all the time, and didn't train with him, but trained around him and just had conversations, and he was just a good guy.
Did he own a gym at some point in Minnesota?
Yep, Ventura's gym. Yeah, his gym was probably 6 blocks from my house. And that's where Wayne Bloom used to train at Jesse Ventura's gym. And when I got into powerlifting, Wayne came over to the gym where Jim Younger owned that gym with the Road Warriors, and we became training partners. And that's how I got strong, was being with Wayne Bloom.
Oh, was that when you met Wayne, or you guys were?
No, I knew Wayne before, but I needed a good training partner, and Wayne was serious about training at that time too.
Didn't he go some powerlifting records?
Yeah. So, both of us, we had we did 1475 and a quarter in the 2-man deadlift, which was the world record at that time.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
1475 and a quarter.
We thought we did over 1500, but by the time then they stripped us after, took all the weights off and weighed them individually. It ended up being 1475 and a quarter. So the plates were off.
Oh. I'm sure you could have done 15 at that.
It was tough. It was tough. But in the gym, we did 1550 before, so we thought for sure we'd get that.
Now this is when people talk about greatest Survivor Series teams of all time. A lot of people talk about this team. We talked about Hulk, of course. We talked about Bill a bunch. Jake, we haven't talked about Jake the Snake Robber. Somebody spent a lot of time.
I just saw Jake not too long ago, him and his wife, and it was great to see him. He was doing really good.
Yeah, he's terrible again, yeah.
Yeah, I've known Jake for 40-some years, and yeah.
It's a lot of history.
And now, on the road, I didn't hang around with Jake, because I was always with my partners and all that, but... we were together every night in the towns, and, we became good friends, and he's, I got to say it again, he's a good guy, great guy.
Absolutely. We were just putting it over, John, Jimmy Street had Barry on a few weeks ago. Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. They do a great job. We get them a lot of guests. They promote all of our signings, all of our conventions. Shout out to our buddy Jimmy Street.
Jimmy, all right, hey.
Brendan says he loves hearing stories about one of the greatest Intercontinental champions of all time, Curt Henning. You got hundreds of stories. I'm sure a lot are in the book. Brendan, you may want to jump on this. Only 2 left. What's a Curt memory you can share with us, Barry?
A good Curt. A one in wrestling kind of a story? Or?
I think whatever is the first that comes to mind that you can tell. Yeah.
So we were on the road. We were on the way to one of the towns, and Curt, Dino Bravo, Boss Man, and and Rick Rude were all following us. And it was Bill, myself, and Fuji, and I think it was probably Tito or somebody who was with us. And those guys, they came up. They go, "Hey, we got to make a stop." So we pull behind them. They stop and they go to a pet store.
Okay.
And we're all going, what the hell is he doing at a pet store? Well, he went and got all these little baby mice that they feed snakes. And he got a big bag of them. And they were alive, And we couldn't figure out what the heck he was doing. Well, we get to the town, and he took and put a bunch of them in the Ultimate Warrior's pocket.
Oh my God.
And then he did it to Sid, too. This was right when Sid got there, and this was about the time when Warrior wasn't there very long. So at the end of the night, everybody showers up and everything, and you could see the Warrior over there putting his pants on, and he goes to get his keys, and he reaches in his pocket, and here's all these, there were dead mice in his pocket, and he went nuts, So and then all of a sudden Sid does it, and Sid goes, "I'm going to kill whoever did this," And right away, it was Curt, right? So the Warrior goes and tells Vince. He says, "Somebody's screwing with me," And so Vince yells out the door, "Henning, get in here!" And Henning's, what? So Henning goes in there, and Curt says that Vince goes, "What the hell are you doing screwing with these guys?" Kind of a deal. And Kurt's like, "I never did. I swear, I never did." So then Vince is kind of laughing, and he says, "All right, Kurt." Kurt leaves, and then Kurt takes and puts a big handful right outside Vince's office, the door.
Oh my God.
So Kurt takes off, gets dressed, gets out of there. Vince comes out of the dressing room and steps in all these mice. And right away, "Henning, get back here now." You know, he knew it was Henning, but that was Kurt, you know. And Vince loved Kurt, you know. Kurt loved Vince.
I feel like a lot of people couldn't get away with that. But,
Right.
but Kurt was able to.
Well, you know, Vince was a river too, you know.
Oh, was he?
Oh, yeah. Vince loved that stuff. He stirred the pot all the time.
We got Repo Man right there. And I missed the spot, so we're going to come back and get Demolition. Boom, right there. The face paint. Can you talk about the first few times you put the face paint on? Well, it had to have been a process. It had to take time. Can you just talk about the learning curve with now? Before you got to go out and travel, you got to get on early flights. You got to worry about your match, be on the road. But now you got to put paint on your face before the match. Can you talk about that process?
When Bill and I first became partners, our first TV, I believe it was Tampa, Florida, and before the matches, I knew all day I was going to have to paint my face. And I said to Bill, what do we do? How do we do it? I don't even know what to do. Because I remember he called me up and said, "Barry, you got to get some paint. You know, we got to paint our faces." So I had no clue. And I got this water paint because I didn't want to have something that was going to, you know, hurt my face or anything. And I wanted to be able to take it off. So that first time we went on there, I put this paint on, and it just was terrible, you know. And then I asked my wife. I said, you know, "Teresa, what the heck do I do?" She was, "Use some eyeliner pencils. They got all different colors." So then the next TV, that's what we did. We used eyeliner pencils all over, and I've been using it since.
Wow.
You know, and the Road Warriors and, you know, Warlord and Barbarian, they use like a latex paint, and you know, I don't think you're supposed to have that on your skin.
Really?
But, you know, they've never had a problem with it. So
that's interesting.
But the eyeliner stays on a little bit better than the paint, you know.
That's a helpful tip from Mrs. Smash.
So we still do that to this day. This
one is, Barry, did you have a favorite opponent to wrestle against?
Favorite opponent? You know, God, I was just
I was
just saying, I've worked with the greatest. I mean, you know, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. You know, I worked with Bret Hart. You know, shoot, I don't know. You know, I suppose, you know, working with the Rock and Roll Express or the Hart Foundation or the British Bulldogs or, you know, single matches, you know, working with Duggan or the Junkyard Dog or Terry Taylor. There's just so many of them. It's hard to name one, you know. I'll tell you, some of the easiest guys to work with was Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. They were like the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah.
I mean, they would sell like crazy, and then you give them a comeback, and you'd fly for them, and the people would just go nuts. You know, I was like working with those smaller teams. You know,
the David Goliath match first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard stories about, you know, there's a famous story that Ricky was selling so well in one of those backwood Louisiana towns. He was getting there's too much heat on him to where Dr. Death was like, you know, small package me. We gotta go small package me.
Oh.
You know, because they were getting ready to come for him because Ricky, you know, was such an amazing baby face, you know, that they were ready. 1,000 people were ready to charge the ring.
Well, I had a match with the Rock and Roll Express, me and Ivan, and I had a rear chin lock on Ricky Morton, and Ricky Morton looks up at me and he goes, "Hey, Crush, don't get alarmed, but there's a guy pointing a gun at you right now."
What?
Yeah, and I went, "You're kidding me." And I look up, and then here's a guy in about the 10th row with the gun pointed right at me. And he says, "Let me get a little comeback on you and scoot out of the ring," you know. So
how do you stay that calm in the situation to both you guys?
Well, you kind of gotta, you know. So then, boom, 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 it happened. He gave me a drop kick. I went right out of the ring. He went over and told the guy to drop it, and the cops came and got him and took him out.
Wow.
Yeah.
It might have saved your life, right?
I don't think he would have shot me, but, you never know.
But, geez, just a pull. That's he. Now, Anthony, we're going to get this one done for you. The request is Mr. Hole-in-One.
Mr. Hole-in-One. I love it.
In the green paint, maybe I think it'll pop right in the corner.
Mr. Hole-in-One Darsow.
Now, let's talk about that. It's such a unique, with Repo Man, the Blacktop Bully, of course, Smash, Crusher Khrushchev, that always gets top billing. But the Mr. Hole-in-One character had a lot of potential, a unique character. Can we talk about that for a bit, Barry?
Yeah, when I became Mr. Hole-in-One Darsow, it was kind of just something to do, I knew it wasn't going to be a serious thing, but it was fun, and I wanted to get on TV, and I wanted to play in the celebrity golf tournaments because I was a pretty good golfer back then. And not a great golfer, but I could hold my own. And I thought, well, if I can get on TV and kind of, get my name out there and my face, and pretty soon I can go in some of those celebrity golf tournaments around because I was already in a lot of them. But I wanted to go as the golfer because I wore the knickers and the socks and, like the Payne Stewart kind of a deal.
And then now, how come that didn't wind up lasting?
I don't know. It just wasn't something that, was the thing, and I was hoping to get John Daly as my manager or something. Then it would have worked, but it just wasn't a good heel gimmick,
You guys had some tag matches too with an underrated team, Bobby Jaggers and Dutch Mantel, the Kansas Jayhawks. What are your memories of those two gentlemen?
Those were two guys that really knew how to work. And we had a lot of fun with those guys. Good guys. I remember one trip. We were on Ronnie Garvin's plane.
Oh.
It was me and Ivan and Bobby Jaggers and Dutch. We were on the plane. We were going like from Charlotte to New Bern. And back then it was a real kayfabe deal, but, we're in a private airport, so nobody's seen us. Mm-hmm. And you land in a private airport and everybody goes, so nobody knew what was going on. But we ended up hitting an unbelievable storm. And I was in the pilot seat with Ronnie.
Okay.
And I was shitting tacks. I have to say it. But I remember looking back at Bobby Jaggers, and I thought he was going to die. His eyes were this big, and that plane was going sideways and up and down and all over the place. And Ronnie Garvin was just like, like no big deal to him, And it'd go down about 5,000 feet and go back up, and oh, man. But we ended up making it to the town. We had the matches of, the lifetime there. Yeah, it was good. Dutch Mantel, a great guy.
Now, everyone, it does scream Militech, Anthony. Now, everyone that rides with Ronnie Garvin has some kind of white knuckle story about Ronnie Garvin as a pilot. Did you ride with him a few times?
I rode with him all the time.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, I trusted him with my life. I'll tell you, and what started that trip off was, Bobby Jaggers was a nervous wreck anyways about flying.
Oh, really?
So Ronnie goes, hey, I'm going to screw with Bobby Jaggers a little bit. So I said, what are you going to do? He goes, well, I'm going to get this wrench and I'm going to start banging on the motor and all that and make sure it works, kind of a deal. So we're all on the plane and I'm up there and Ronnie grabs this crescent wrench from underneath the deal or whatever and goes out, and I said, Ronnie, what are you doing with that? He goes, well, sometimes I got to hit the engine a little bit because up in the sky it might stop a little bit, so I kind of bang on it and get the rust out of it. And Bobby Jaggers go, what? And Ronnie goes, yeah, it's no big deal. I do it all the time. So Ronnie goes out there and he makes like he's banging on the engine, and goes to the other one. And he comes back in, he goes, yeah, I think we should be pretty good this time, you don't want to hear that from a pilot, right?
I know.
So then Ronnie gets, we take off, and so he was shitting tacks the whole trip. But, yeah, it was fun riding with him, yeah.
And a lot easier, I guess, than having to put 400 miles each way, potentially.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
A question our buddy Darren wants to know, when do you think Demolition will be taking its rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame? Of course,
Right.
Long overdue. Some recent figures have been released. Of course, everyone, it's been breaking over the last year. You guys are thankfully and rightfully back part of the WWE Legends and get a bunch of cool stuff. But maybe can you talk about that process, Ben?
Yeah, I really don't know if it'll happen or when it'll happen. You never know. A couple of years ago, we were invited to the Hall of Fame ceremony, and we had to tell them we couldn't go because we were already booked and had so much stuff to do. Last year, we ended up going to the Hall of Fame, and it was great because we got to see all the guys and talk to a lot of our old friends and everything. So it's fun being part of that big machine again. But there's so many tag teams out there that could be in the Hall of Fame. So it'd be quite an honor to get in. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen when your time is. They might wait till we both die before they put us in.
Oh, don't say that. That's
you never know.
That's what they did with Ivan Koloff. Yeah.
But it's like 100 years from now. So
Well, I think a lot of people, when you guys do get it, because I think you're going to get it later, a lot of people are going to be excited to see that.
I plan on living to be a long time. I probably will live outlast the WWE.
See? That's what I mean. So they're going to have to get you in before they close. So glad that some new figures are coming out of you guys. Do you have a favorite of the new figures? Question number one. And number two, favorite town to wrestle in?
Well, I'll tell you, there's about 4 different figures that are just coming out this month.
Some of them are dropping as we speak. Kendall have a bunch.
The WWE is, had the pre-sales for those. I don't know if those are out yet. Do you know that, Nick, at all? Or?
So, yes, they are.
They are out.
Just getting mailed out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, those look incredible. The rubber guys... I just got the bigger rubber guys in the mail. Those guys do such a great job. And we just had the WrestleCade ones when we were there. Phenomenal, Rocky Turner came out with those. They're just incredible. And, we've been working with all these guys for so many years and everything. And, now finally the action figures are coming out. But, you're kind of spoiled because there's, I have so many action figures out there.
You do.
Like I say, I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
You know what, though, right? I think it's overdue. Repo Man's got a few figures. Smash has a ton of figures. I think a Crusher Khrushchev figure is overdue.
And it's going to come out.
And a Blacktop Bully figure.
And I think that's coming out also.
Okay.
So...
fingers crossed, guys.
Yeah, and I think bobbleheads are probably going to be coming sometime.
Well, you guys did a great one with our buddy Steve from Heroes Hideout and the guys at Epic Toys. Those fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's maybe a Funko Pop.
Yeah, Funko Pop.
It doesn't end. The world of Demolition does not slow down, guys.
Who would ever think that I'd be sitting here at your table right now, talking to the fans, selling a book and signing pictures and all that 40-some years later.
I know. And every week.
Every week. My wife's ready to kill me because I'm on the road. I'm on the road more than the guys that are wrestling.
You are. You 100% are.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but that's because the demand is there. Demolition was such a big part of a lot of people's childhoods.
Well, without the fans, we wouldn't even be here. And, fans are the greatest.
Now, Randy Cully was, of course, an original Demolition member. Didn't work out for him. Did you guys ever, I know he became a Moondog, I think, again, but did you ever talk to him afterwards and kind of...
A little bit. And, he was just a really, really good guy about it. I mean, he knew it didn't work out for him. And... he never said anything bad or anything to me. We became friends. But he was just a hard-working, nice guy. It was just unfortunate it didn't work out. It's kind of like me with the golfer. It just didn't work out. It's, sometimes the gimmicks don't work. And, a lot of the guys nowadays, you get on and get a push, and that doesn't even work when they get a push. It's just, the fans... like things and don't like things.
Yeah.
And then it all depends upon what the office does with you, too, I mean, they can only push you down people's throats for so long. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get over it, they got to get rid of you. And that's kind of what it was.
Well, I think one thing, and I don't know how they can change this, the WWF, and I don't know, maybe the last 10 years, has not really done a great job of creating new superstars, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like Brock's a superstar. Cena was a superstar. Roman Reigns is probably the last superstar they've had. They've had a lot of guys that have won championships and have been in pay-per-views, but if you look at all the WrestleMania, Cody. They brought back Cody from AEW, Roman's in the main event, Seth Rollins, Brock, Cena, all guys that, have been wrestling for 15 years.
Right.
So whereas your era, the characters, everyone was different. You were completely different from the Hart Foundation.
Right.
Completely different from Coco Beware. Completely different from Jesse the Body.
Right.
From Hulk. From Big John Studd. Everyone had a different look. And then, because of that, they're easily identifiable. And then they became stars. Now I think maybe the people look too similar too.
Yeah, you might be right. It's... and they all can work. I mean, they're good.
It's not talent thing.
No, it's just if it's the right situation and it's the right thing that the people want to see, or boo, but now you watch these matches. These guys are really good. I mean, they can do so many moves that we never. I could never do them.
When you came back to WCW, 98, 99, that time period. How had it changed compared to when you had left as the Blacktop Bully after the Dustin?
It was completely different. I mean, it was big time TV now. Because they were competing with Vince is what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So they had to up their game a lot, and it was real hard not being part of the main roster. That's what was the hardest for me. I signed a really nice contract when I was there after the Blacktop Bully, and I didn't hardly work. Mm-hmm. And it was really hard. I knew it was, the end of my career at that time, but it was hard, getting paid and not working. I'm a hard-working guy, Yeah,
you didn't want to do that, even though, I'm sure.
And they should have just said, well, thank you, and, took the money and run, but it's hard for me to do that.
Someone was bringing in WrestleMania 6 earlier, the Sky Dome match, one of the featured matches. You guys against Haku and Andre. The two pops for that show, Warrior winning the belt and Demolition winning the tag belts. Can you talk about that? Just a few years before that, you're two of the most hated guys in the roster. At that point, right with Hogan and Warrior, you guys are the most loved baby faces on the roster. Can you talk about that moment, such a big match?
We always loved Canada and, the fans there and everything. And then you're in one of the biggest buildings in Canada, the Sky Dome. And when you got on that little ring, Bill and I, and you're going out to the big ring and you look around and you see that crowd. And it was awesome. And then you're wrestling Andre the Giant, who's one of probably the most recognizable, biggest stars around, and then Haku, who's one of our great friends too. It was like a dream come true match. It wasn't like we're going to tear the house down or anything with that kind of match, but Haku worked his tail off in that match, and we didn't know that was one of Andre's last matches too. So he never told us, and and I played cards with him all the time in the back, and he never said it was his last one. But the fans didn't let us down with the pop. I'll tell you, they went nuts when we won the titles. Incredible. A lot of fun.
Now, Nikolai Volkov, we're getting this Mid-South print done, was a big part of your Mid-South time.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, he was my partner.
Can you talk about teaming with Nikolai? A brick shit house of a man, a good person inside, and a big powerhouse outside. Can you talk about Nikolai, Barry?
Yeah, when Nikolai was down there, Nikolai wasn't, the most agile guy. He was a big, strong guy, and, the matches he would have weren't, he'd have to go against the smaller guys and, they'd make the comeback on him and, do the whole thing. So, I was struggling as a baby face there. And Bill Watts told me, he says, you're going to have to be a heel. That's where you're really going to learn how to work. And when he came up, Bill Watts told me, he goes, I'm going to make you a Russian. And he says, you're going to get on an interview and you're going to tell all the Americans you're going to bury them. And your new name is Crusher Khrushchev. And at first I'm thinking to myself, whoa, you know, this is going to be a lot of heat. Do I really want to do this? But I'm thinking I'm going to do it because this is wrestling, you know?
Yeah.
And he says, and then I'm going to put you with Nikolai Volkov. He's going to be your partner. And I was so excited because I was already friends with Nikolai. And we, you know, I was roommates with Ernie Ladd for a long time. And then I became roommates with Nikolai. And Nikolai would be on the road for a couple of weeks, and then he'd go home to see his wife and everything. But Nikolai taught me a lot. You know, he couldn't do a lot of stuff at that time in the ring, you know, the up, down, that kind of stuff. But he knew the philosophy, what to do. And as a tag, we worked out really good because I was the workhorse.
Sure.
And he was the stronger guy. And every tag team, you kind of have to have each of those. And it worked out really well. And once we worked with the Rock and Roll Express down there, oh my God, we tore it up. So, yeah, that was the start of me really learning how to work, was when I was with Nikolai.
And now, was he your first long-term tag partner?
Yeah.
He was, right?
Yeah.
Now, to go from Bill Watts to Ole Anderson, did both gruff exteriors, both hard bosses, did they have some differences compared to their exteriors? You know, I know similar aggressive alpha type personalities, but you know, what are difference that Ole Anderson and Bill Watts may have had?
Well, Bill Watts was more of he was more like a really rough coach.
Okay.
You know, he was smart as heck. You never would say anything back to him or anything.
Sure.
He was, you know, you're a young kid. You know, I'm 22, 23 years old, and you know, he's been around forever, and he's a rough and tough guy, you know. So you listen to him. Where Ole was rough and tough, but I kind of joked with Ole a lot.
Oh, so Ole did have that.
Yeah, you know,
side.
he'd act tough and everything, but really, you know, he liked the Minnesota crew, you know. And you know, I was trained with the Road Warriors and Rick Rude, and he was the first wrestler that came down to camp, and I met him way back then, so I knew him. So that was kind of the difference. But they were both old school, rough and tough guys, you know.
Carl, we're going to get this one in the red paint pen. The request is Demolition.
White or red?
The
White?
Oh, did I pick up? You think I was colorblind?
I'm thinking you drove too far today.
It might have been that. I still feel good, though. Your energy has kept me going. Now, you brought Minnesota guys. Another Minnesota guy that was around in your formative years. Eddie Sharkey.
Eddie Sharkey trained us all in.
Can you talk about Eddie Sharkey? He had a larger-than-life personality from what I've heard. I've heard numerous stories about him. What's a memory that you have of Eddie Sharkey?
Well, Eddie, you know, when we were at the bar, he was bartending. And
Grandma V's?
Yep, Grandma V's,
Really?
the Road Warriors, Rick Rude and myself, we were bouncing there. And at night, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, the bar would close. We'd all have a few beers after hours, and Eddie would sit down with us, and I don't know how many times he says, I got to get you guys in the wrestling business. You're going to be great in the business, you know. And finally, we said, well, let's do it, Eddie. And he had a church basement we went to with a ring that was harder than this floor. And we trained on it. And Eddie never got in the ring with us the whole time.
Really?
Because he was smart enough to know that we probably would have killed him, you know. He never really smartened us up, and we were beating the crap out of each other. I mean, we were hurting each other every day. And we finally were kind of learning, you know, take it easy on me and I'll take it easy on you kind of a deal. And then finally we had a guy that came in who was a worker, and he helped us, and it was like, this is how it is. And that's kind of how we learned in the camp then.
Really?
You don't really punch each other, and you don't.
Who was it that came in?
Jerry Duran.
Okay. Never
Yeah.
heard of him.
Yeah, he helped out a lot.
he's not a name that gets brought up, so I'm glad you were able to bring him up and give him a shine on. Very grand. Did Vern and Sharkey have issues at times? I've heard.
Oh yeah. Vern tried to pick up his wife.
Is that when Sharkey came with a gun?
He came in and shot up his office. Yeah.
That is wild. That is. But you've been on the road the last couple of weeks, week after week after week. Can you tell everyone maybe a story or two from recent travels? WrestleCade. I know you were in Nashville. A lot of big stuff going on for you and Bill as you guys tour the country again.
Well, I don't really have any really good fun stories. It seems like now that it's wintertime, it's been brutal traveling.
Travel, yeah.
Oh my gosh. We were in Nashville, Tennessee. We were in a shopping center at a store where they have all the memorabilia, and it was an incredible store. And my flight was canceled, and I kind of figured it was going to be. And so I rented a car, so I had the reservation. So I knew once the flight was canceled, boom, I went to the airport, got the car, and I started driving to Michigan, which was probably 10, 12-hour trip. Well, it was snowing like crazy. And I got to Dayton, Ohio, and I called my wife. I said, Teresa, you got to get me a hotel room because they were starting to sell out because all the snow, everybody's stopping. And I got the last room in Dayton, Ohio that we called. And, from Dayton, I got another 7-hour drive, and I didn't, 6-hour drive. With the snow, it probably would have been freaking a day and a half, But I ended up getting lucky, and I got a room, and then I left the next morning, and it took me about probably 8 or 9 hours to get home from
Was it still snowing the next morning?
No, it wasn't snowing, but the roads were icy, and it was brutal. So then I thought, well, I hope this don't happen. And then the next weekend, I'm in Waukesha, Wisconsin, another snowstorm. Oh, same thing. But I ended up getting home. My wife was screaming at me. She went with me on that trip. She was yelling to pull over. I got to get a hotel room. I said, no, we're going for it. And I had a 4-wheel drive truck, and we drove right through it. And then the next weekend, we were outside Columbus, Ohio. The weather was so bad. I had my wife with me again. We ended up staying in the hotel that next night. And then probably the first 60 or 70 miles took us 3 hours because of the ice and snow the next day. And then it was clear sailing all the way home. So I've had nothing but bad times traveling. Now when I was just talking to the lady up front, she said tomorrow it might be an ice storm.
Oh, is that what they're saying?
Yeah. And I said, well, tomorrow night I don't leave till like 5:30. She says, well, you should be good by then. So.
Oh, it's supposed to be during the day?
Yeah, morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we get a little cold tonight with all this rain we had here. So there's nothing but bad weather I've been going through.
Everyone said good vibes to Barry this weekend for when,
Pray for me.
Yeah, he's traveling up north for our buddies at K&S. Shout out to Cuban Connection Company.
Yeah.
Now, when you were on the road, were you wheelman or were you shotgun? With Bill, let's say.
We traded off all the time. Yeah. We get a stack of plane tickets, for like 3 weeks out. And I'd get the hotel for those whole 3 weeks. And then he'd get the rental cars for all those 3 weeks. And then, when he got the car, then he drove. When I got the cars, I drove. And then Fuji would always have the restaurants to go to.
Okay.
And, you learn never to sleep in the car when somebody else is driving. You always talked to them and kept them awake. So
the right thing to do.
The right thing to do.
Harry, it's always great having you on. We always have fun when it's just us or when Bill joins us. What's something that you might want to say to everyone that you've seen the last few weeks, that you've seen the last few years, that has supported you throughout your entire journey in pro wrestling and picked up tonight? We moved a ton of books, guys. Everyone was really excited about the books. Once again, 2 available if you want to claim them. What's something you want to say to everyone that's tuned in over the last couple hours?
Well, plus you could buy the book on Amazon also, but the hard part is it's hard to sign them then. Sure. So this is where it's the perfect place to get the last couple of books so I can sign them. But, being on the road with all of our friends, it's fun. The last show we were just at, I was right next to Tonka, Brutus Beefcake. Fred Ottman was there. Luke Bushwhacker, you love these guys.
Sure.
And that's what's so good about going out all these different weekends. You see different people all the time. So now tomorrow, I don't know who else is going to be there that we're going to see, but I'm sure there's going to be some other people coming and going.
I think tomorrow it's just you guys. I think it's just you guys.
But I think isn't somebody else at night or?
Oh, there might be someone after you guys.
Yeah, so we'll see somebody.
Yeah, there probably will be someone they're crossing paths with. You're right.
Last time we were there, we saw Mick Foley, and then another time before that, we saw somebody else. So just being on the road on the weekends, it's just fun seeing everybody. And, you know, we're all in the same boat. You know, you're out trying to make a extra couple of bucks and talking to the fans.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, it's like you, Nick, you know, helping, you know, this is great for me, you know, good for you, good for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Every time we have you on, Barry, it's always a good time. You're always so gracious with the fans. Your signature's always great. Crush Khrushchev, Repo Man, whatever, Smash, of course, whatever the character may be. So I know we're going to have you back again. And once again, guys, just a couple of seconds if you want something personalized a certain way. As a reminder, the Brooklyn Brawler will be with us tomorrow. Someone else that you spent time with on the road.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Brawler. And then Detroit's own AK-47 Allison K will be our last virtual signing of the year. And that's going to double as our customer appreciation event. So everyone who makes a purchase, you're going to get a free signed item from the captain. So, guys, thank you so much for joining for a live portion of the virtual sign with Barry Darsow.
Yep.
Barry, please take us home.
Gosh dang it. I never thought I'd do a book, but I'm very happy with it, and I know you're going to love reading it. So if you could purchase the book and let me know what your thoughts are, too, with it.
Yeah, please tag Barry on Twitter, Instagram.
But thank you for everything. Nick, you're unbelievable on the show. You got a great show. So thank you.
Always great having you on, guys. And we got to end this one the way we end all of our virtual signings, which is cheers to the working man.